Welcome to Flight Pass, where we explore how global experiences shape business education and learner development here at UW Whitewater. Today's conversation focuses on global immersion in action, what it means to teach finance across borders, and what students gain from learning that moves beyond campus. I'm joined today by Dr. Mohammed Jafarinejad, who's an associate professor in finance, and will be traveling to Cologne, Germany, this summer to teach, conduct research, and lead students as part of a finance travel study experience. So welcome, Mo, and congratulations on this opportunity. How did this opportunity from Cologne come about?
Thank you. Thank you, Andy, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you talking about this new podcast that we have. So this opportunity in Cologne, I think it's a work of the past decade that I've been here. So I joined the faculty here in the fall of 2016, as you may remember, and I joined the international committee right away, working with Carol Scobati. Shout out to her if she's watching this video, and with you. So a few years after I joined, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, pre-COVID. Everything is a little bit blurry right now, but I remember meeting Wolfgang because Carol, as you may remember, had a lot of interaction with faculty abroad, taking students, having students here. And based on my background, she was like, if you're interested, this could be an opportunity. So Wolfgang, just to provide more perspective, was a faculty at the same university, Cologne University in Germany. And we started exchanging some emails and making some plans, but COVID happened. And so that put a halt. Fast forward after COVID, Carol retired, Wolfgang retired. So there was a time that no plan was taking place, and luckily faculty from Cologne, Felix and Britta, reached out and they said, "Hey, we're revamping our program. Would you guys be interested to do collaboration?" And I mean, I didn't even didn't even blink. I said yes. So quickly, I got Aryan, our department chair, involved. We started meeting, making plans, and then eventually I got you and John involved, the director of Global Center for Global Engagement. So, and I think with that, we were able to make this work. So, luckily, the opportunity was also to apply for a fellowship. So to make this work, they told me that Germany has this opportunity for faculty, international faculty, to apply. They call this, I guess, Plan CV, which is an acronym for something, right? But uh, I was able to apply for that fellowship. And then while I was over the summer, actually, I worked with my counterpart, Felix, to make sure that everything is ready for that fellowship so we can apply. And then I think it was in August when I heard back, right before the fall semester started, that I was awarded the fellowship. So I'm planning to engage in teaching, research with the faculty and students there starting summer.
Well, that's great. Now, this is beyond just this as well. You're looking for a travel study experience too.
Exactly.
So maybe what might that mean for our students?
So since this is a rare opportunity and I was waiting for this for almost a decade to to take place. So as soon as I had this opportunity, I was asking the faculty there, especially Felix, that is working with me directly. I said, "Hey, is there any chance we can take some students from Wisconsin to Germany to share that this experience with them?" And so we started kind of brainstorming a little bit to see what would that look like, for how long, because their semester is a little bit different, like the timing, all of that. So, and luckily, he was able to get some faculty from their end on board. And he said, yeah, we could make that work. And so what do we cover? So we started thinking about what is applicable for students. For example, I'm teaching financial market institutions, talking about central banking. So can we include a central banking visit, European Central Bank, who happens to be in Germany, right? Um, And then can we do some site visits, for example, any investment firms, any um, financial institutions. So luckily, we were able to put that together and started advertising and recruiting students.
That's really interesting. Not to cut you off there, but just thinking back, even looking back at your earlier response, you brought up Carol Scavati, who was instrumental in developing and founding the Institute for International Business Collaboration here on campus, and you mentioned John McGuigan, who's the director of our Center for Global Education, and kind of how you kind of got tapped in being involved by looking at your background and maybe some interest, but maybe can you elaborate a little bit more about where your interest in this international came about and
Sure.
maybe where that's coming from?
Sure. Um, so, I mean, I think going back, as long as I remember, I had this interest. And I think it goes back to my background personally. I'm from Iran, grew up in Iran, and I even finished my undergrad in Iran before moving to the US. So I ended up moving to the US because I have family here in Texas, in California. My dad studied here decades ago, ended up going back. But when I finished undergrad, I said, I really want to come to the US to have that experience. So coming to the US was the first step. And then while I was here, I happened to be in Texas, South Texas. So there we had the opportunity for a study abroad experience during the first summer of my MBA when I started my MBA. And so I remember they asked me, "So you just came from Iran, you're doing a study abroad. Why do you want to do it again?" I said, "The more the merrier. Germany is going to be different from Iran and the US, so why not?" And so I was able to go, and that was one of the most memorable experience of my, academic studying experience, if you call it, especially during my MBA program, right? And even during my PhD, since I was in South Texas, I had experience just having classmates from all over the world, from Germany itself that we're talking about, obviously the US, but also people from Chile, from Asia, let's say China, Korea, or students who are coming from Mexico, the other side of the border, right? So not only in the PhD program, but later when I was teaching there, I had students from all over the place, right? So I think that kind of shaped who I am. So I mentioned this before. I guess I'm the byproduct of these global engagements, right? So
Well, that's fascinating. I'm a little bit more curious on just drawing this out a little bit further. At what point did doing this international stuff actually become real for you? You mentioned that this was the experiences that you had here in the US with these intercultural collaborations that you had were some of the most memorable experiences that you had. Just wonder if you can elaborate a little bit more on that, about what stood out so much about those experiences.
so uh, in general, I think both personally and professionally, the growth opportunities that are available, when you do this. So professionally, when I did the study abroad, I learned more about how Germans, so the topic was inner cultural business negotiation, right? So how, let's say, Germans or Europeans negotiate in business setting compared to Americans, so comparative analysis. I remember we also had sessions on renewable energies, right? So, and this is again 2011. And I remember, we would check, solar farms or wind farms. And when, folks would come, because this was an exchange program, so folks from Germany would come. And in Texas, we have abundance of, sunlight and wind. And they were like, how come we don't see more of that here? But we see so much of it in Germany, right? So this comparative analysis, it just drives curiosity, critical thinking, if you will, right? So professionally, it provided perspective, and personally, when you're in a foreign country, the experiences that you gain. I was roommate with three German students. They were hosting me, kindly provided that opportunity for not only me but also, like, other students in the program. So having that interaction on a daily basis, how they live life. They bike to campus more often instead of driving, right? As opposed to the US. They take trains to travel more likely. Public transportation is a much bigger component of their, day-to-day experience. And so forth. So it's just they speak multiple languages. Like it's when I was there, I mean, I speak Farsi, grew up speaking Farsi, I speak English. But they speak like obviously German, let's say. English very easy. They also mostly speak French or Spanish. So I'm like, so these are the perspectives that um kind of gave me that motivation to do it. And also I was always wanting to repeat this experience when I become faculty. So
Hmm. Well, that's great. What do you think that experience is going to be like in a classroom teaching in Germany compared to what you do here now at Whitewater?
I think it's going to be the same like classroom environment, right? So where we can put together students from here and students from Germany. So it's going to be some sort of a lecture based. I expect there's going to be discussion, so there's similarities. In general, what I expect in Germany is there's going to be more structure. So I think in general their classroom or their teaching has probably more structure than what we have in the U.S. Um, I think they're mostly exam based instead of assignment or discussion based. That's what I expect. But the good thing is, actually, they told me when I'm going there to teach. So I asked them like if you guys can provide some more context of what should I expect, like similar questions essentially. They said, we want you to teach it the same way you teach it in the US. We want our students to have that experience. And then at the end of the day, we can compare to see, what's good, what can be improved, what they can learn, what we can learn, right? So, and I love that because it helps me probably learn something with a different lens, different perspective, right? So the feedback is going to be valuable.
Given the fact that you've had some interaction with German students and colleagues before, do you anticipate some things that you might adjust a little bit just in advance, and maybe what you already know from maybe experiences that you've had in Germany or European countries?
I I think in general, here in the US, we provide, I think, more help and support for students. In Germany, I think they're more hands off. That's how it was also in Iran when I was going to school. So, students are much more, I think, self-driven. They're, the faculty I remember would cover material and you're supposed to follow up. If you need to understand something more, read more. But here in the US, we try to kind of meet students halfway. We try to provide more support, reach out more. So I think there is a little bit of a balance that um, once I'm there, I have to navigate and figure out, right? So that's one case. On the other hand, I think here we probably, as I mentioned, we're more maybe case based or discussion based, depending on the topic we're teaching. And I'm not sure if that's the case there. I'll find out. But in my class, I'm already planning to include discussions and presentations just to see how it goes. I mean, I think the topic requires teaching financial market institutions in the European context, comparing in the US with the US essentially requires some debates and discussions. So let's see.
Yeah, that's great. What do you think learners from Whitewater that are going to be going to Germany and experiencing this type of classroom setting, and also the visiting the sites that you've mentioned, how do you think that might impact or kind of influence the way that they understand financial markets and systems?
I think first and foremost, they're going to see it in action, right? So in my class, I always try to cover not only what happens in the US, just naturally because of my self interest. Might be selfish too, I don't know, but I try to cover a little bit of international components, right? And as you know, that's here and there we have some, international students in our classes. So this semester, for example, I have a student from the UK, London, specifically in my class. Another one from Sweden, right? So that also kind of motivates me to cover international aspects of some of the stuff we're covering. What we cover, how similar it is to what they have and they experience, and what they can take away from it, not only here but also to wherever they're from, right? So covering that, seeing that in action, I guess for our students also here, they can see, okay, when we talk about European Central Bank as opposed to the Fed, or in addition to the Fed, or Bank of England, well, when they see it there, they see, yeah, there are similarities, but there are also differences. We talk about how the Fed, for example, follows the dual mandate: economic growth, low inflation. In Europe, they focus more on the inflation side rather than the growth, because they have to navigate 20 plus countries, right? So these are, I think, uh, I would say first and foremost is number one. And then just how different institutions approach, you know, essentially what they have. In Europe, we talk about, let's say, retirement system. The retirement system in Europe is different compared to the US. That would impact investments, another topic that I cover, right? And we're planning to cover it there as well. Um, what that would look like, the combination of public-private system that we have as opposed to the public system that they have in Germany. What are the similarities? What are the differences, right? So.
Mhm. I love the several different specific examples about how the differences in financial markets. What do you think about some of the broader things that maybe extend beyond financial knowledge and background? What are some of the broader skills that students get from this type of experience?
Absolutely. Navigating uncharted territories, right? So, regardless, even when you travel abroad just as a tourist, right? You have to navigate that. It's a different language, different culture, different food. How do we deal with that? How do we navigate that? And not only that, but to learn from it. I always remember when we were going to Germany, one of the things that they were repeating is, it's not good, it's not bad, it's different, right? And that kind of clicked. So when I'm traveling, or you know what I'm planning to teach there, that's what I'm going to keep in mind, and that's what I'm going to repeat for our students, to just keep an open mind and see all of these changes, differences, similarities, and take something away. I think that provides confidence for our students, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately, when they can go through this, come out of it, it's growth, right? So.
Mhm. So that type of confidence and that familiarity and being able to navigate these type of different scenarios, those are probably some skills that are relevant for learners and kind of competing in today's environment and being offering value for their employers or for whatever type of work that a student is interested in. Is maybe can you comment on that a little bit about some of how they can apply those skills maybe in any type of job that they're working or on
Ab-
tasks that they do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, uh, more specifically, I want to talk about finance, and then I can probably generalize it too, but more specifically on finance. So, um, we talk about global readiness, right? So, a lot of career opportunities in finance would require, students to not only be aware of what's going on here in the US, but also globally, because it impacts what they do. Finance inherently global, right? So money moves around, money never sleeps, right? We know that. So if you want to be successful in your career, you need to understand what's happening here, what's happening abroad. If you have that experience, I think it's easier for you to also share that when you're looking for job opportunities, right? When employers seeing that, yes, you took that initiative to go abroad, to challenge yourself, to grow from that experience, or learn from experience and grow, they take you probably more seriously. They value that much more, right? That's just one advantage. On top of that, you know, um, let's say students will have to analyze an investment opportunity or end up working at a financial institution, right? And these investments can be domestic, can be global, right? Knowing that, saying that, hey, I remember we had the opportunity to visit the Fed here in the US, but also the European Central Bank in Germany. What can I learn from that? What does it mean when Europe is looking into, let's say, raising interest rate or lowering interest rate as opposed to what we do here, right? What does it mean to focus on just inflation versus here economic growth and inflation simultaneously? So um, I think it provides a competitive edge for our students, right? So it makes them um, much better candidates, right, out there in the job market, especially in the age of AI, right? We're talking about AI too. AI can help us probably be more efficient, right? AI can help us to get things done probably a little bit faster, right? But at the same time, if you want to show a little bit of an edge on what everybody can do is to share that experience. Say, beyond everything else that I can accomplish is that experience that I had, and that provided me a perspective that even AI cannot necessarily provide.
Mhm.
So,
What goals do you have in terms of research or kind of ideas like that for before you personally are going there?
yes, part of that fellowship. So when I applied for the fellowship could have been fully teaching, fully research, or somewhere in between. And I selected somewhere in between, like a combination of teaching and research. And the reason is because I wanted to have that teaching experience. I have fun when I'm in the classroom. That's my favorite part of the career. So um, and the engagement with students is really personally valuable for me. But I also wanted to make sure that research wise I can collaborate with the faculty there, because they would provide a different experience and expertise, or um, kind of they see the world in a different lens because they have a different background, right? So uh, we're planning to we started the conversation already, but we're planning to meet even more when I'm physically there in Germany. With one of the faculty already, we're planning to work on sustainable finance because, again, that's a bigger topic in Germany, right? And part of the reason is because of how Germans look at the long term, I guess, sustainability when it comes to energy sources. That's something that they have to be more conscious. That's why green finance, sustainable finance is a much bigger or a much more important topic there as opposed to the U.S. So that's something that I'm going to look at. I'm personally interested in behavioral finance, and that's a topic that I cover in my classes, or at least touch on here and there. I'm planning to not only cover that in my classes, they wanted more emphasis on that in the course that I'm teaching, but also maybe look into opportunities, similarities, and differences that we can do in terms of research there too. So these are just some experiences, some examples that I'm hoping to experience.
So, what kind of comments if you've got a student that is maybe a Whitewater student that doesn't have a lot of international experience and doesn't really know about international travel, or if that might be right for them, or maybe considering doing a short term travel study like this, or something more extensive like a semester abroad, a study abroad? What advice would you give them that are kind of thinking about these opportunities?
Absolutely. So um, hesitation is normal, right? It's totally understandable to hesitate especially when you've never left the country, right? But what we need to consider is that if we prefer to be in our comfort zone, but we know that staying in the comfort zone doesn't necessarily lead to growth, right? Personally, professionally. So I say I understand that, but at the same time, I would encourage them to take the leap, and participate in any sort of opportunities like this, because when they come out of it, they build that confidence. They would see that personal and professional growth, and they can look back at that experience and say, well, at least this is my own experience. I wish I have more opportunities, or I've had done more of that. So when I look back to my own experience, again, mind you, I moved from Iran to the US two very different cultures. And then while I was here, went to Germany. But looking back, if there is anything I could change, is to do more study abroad. So that's something that I don't know if it's regret is the right word, but that's something that I remember mentioning to my advisors back then, and also some of my colleagues here. So that's
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a great point. I mean, obviously, speaking from your own experience of doing that, taking that leap is it's a bold step for a lot of students coming from here, but something that if it's not regret, it's something that you catch a bug, and it's something that you just want to be able to leverage and exploit as much as you can because of the possibilities that become available to you when you do start looking beyond just your own national boundaries.
yes.
So, at the end of our previous episode, we had Dr. Tananaporn Sichinda left a question for our next guest, which is you, Mo. So I'd like to ask that for you. What would be your approach in balancing learners' enthusiasm versus usage of technology and AI? So, in the context of finance education and global immersion and all of this other conversation that we had today, what do you think about that balance?
Um, I guess first of all, that's a really good question. There is no way to avoid AI. We both know, right? So, um, but the way I look at AI is a tool, right? Technology in general should be looked at as a tool, right? Even though AI is a different animal. I mean, I studied IT engineering, so we both somewhat share a similar background. And so when I studied, MBA, business, and eventually finance, I always try to look at technology, even now, as a tool to help us, accomplish what we need. So AI, as I said, can help us be more efficient, can help us maybe get things done faster, right? But at the end of the day, uh, having experiences globally, being able to present, tell the story about something I mean, you have to make a case. If you want to, so in finance, if you want to make an investment, you have to do, analyze, let's say, stocks, look at their cash flows, all of that information. Maybe AI can help you get this done. Actually, some of my former students coming back, when we have FMA student org meetings, right? They come back and say, yeah, well, like a lot of things that we learn, now we can be more efficient using AI and get them done. But if they don't understand it, right? If they put the same information that they collect in front of somebody who cannot really explain, understand, tell the story, right? Or use it properly, there is no use, right? So um, I think the way we have to approach it is to make sure in our classroom, at least that's what I'm doing personally, I try to put more emphasis on things that AI can help, but students at the end of the day should master in order to be able to be more competitive. In my upper level classes, we have presentation. I tell students, you're more than welcome to use AI to come up with the topic of the presentation, and even ask AI to prepare your slides if you want to. I encourage you to do that yourself, but that's fine. At the end of the day, you have to come to the class and present that yourself. Well, if you can't, then there's no use. You're not going to get a good grade. And later on, you're not going to be able to, kind of sell yourself, at an interview if you can't explain the whole story, right? So, um, so I hope I answered the question.
It did, and that's actually a really interesting response and something that I didn't necessarily expect. So I appreciate that. So, so that with that point, I want to thank you for the time that you've shared right here, and I also want to congratulate you on getting this opportunity for going to Cologne, and also, I guess. I guess acknowledge that type of work that you're doing where you're looking beyond just this something that to benefit yourself, but looking to expand this and develop this partnership, but also to benefit learners here at Whitewater. So,
Thank you. No,
thank
thank you
you.
so much. I mean, I've looked up to you and Carol and all of the faculty who started this journey before me. Serving on a national committee helped me, working together, right? So helped me kind of gain that perspective and use it, and hope I can also pass the torch, right, at some point to, or we can, ask people who are interested to come on board and help us, make this more inclusive, bigger, so.
Hmm. Fantastic. Now, the conversation doesn't end here. Mo's going to leave a question for our next guest, and we'll carry that forward in our next episode of Flight Pass.
Thank you.